The first weapon for survival. A mysterious beginning. What drove the earliest humans to evolve their first weapon for survival? Was it for hunting, defense, or something more? Imagine a world where our ancestors were not the dominant force on the planet. They weren't the hunters, but the hunted. Predators lurked in every shadow, and survival depended on wit, agility, and most crucially, the ability to secure life-sustaining resources. Yet, when we think of early weapons, we often envision sharp spears, mighty clubs, and tools forged for combat. But what if I told you that the first weapon humanity ever crafted wasn't for hunting or defending against beasts? What if it was forged for something far more fundamental, something far more unexpected? Water. The very thing we take for granted today was once the most valuable resource on Earth. For early humans, access to water was a matter of life and death. But what was it about water that made it so critical? How did it become the unseen battlefield where the first human weaponry took shape? Was it simply an instinctual drive to survive? Or did the earliest Homo sapiens have a deeper understanding of the world around them? Our ancient ancestors didn't have the modern technologies we rely on today. No water bottles, no plumbing systems, no efficient ways of storing this precious resource. Instead, they had to innovate. And in their innovation, they created a weapon, a tool that would secure their survival one drop at a time. But how did they craft such a weapon? What drove them to create the very first survival tool? The answers are hidden in the dust of time, waiting to be uncovered. What secrets did these primitive tools hold, and how did they shape the fate of humanity? A world without water. The struggle for survival. What made water so critical for early humans, and why did they need to create a weapon to secure it? Early humans didn't live in the temperate climates we often associate with the development of civilization. The world they inhabited was harsh, unpredictable, and full of danger. Vast plains stretched out beneath a merciless sun, forests loomed with predators, and mountains provided refuge but also isolation. Water wasn't just a luxury, it was essential for life, but finding it wasn't as simple as it seems today. Rivers and lakes weren't always abundant, and even when they were often guarded by fierce predators or hidden deep within treacherous terrain. It was in this unforgiving landscape that the earliest Homo sapiens discovered something that would forever change their trajectory. The ability to secure water, not just from the environment, but through the creation of tools that could help them gather, store, and protect it. The invention of this first weapon wasn't driven by the desire to hunt or defend against animals. It was driven by the need to secure water in a world where it wasn't always readily available. At the heart of this challenge was the understanding that without water, survival was impossible. But why was this resource so critical? Water wasn't just needed for drinking, it was essential for cooking, cleaning, and sustaining life in every way. It was a survival tool in and of itself. As our ancestors began to migrate from the forests into open plains and arid regions, they encountered even more obstacles. Rivers dried up in some seasons. In others, they flooded, washing away their food and shelters. Lakes became toxic or overrun by dangerous predators. Water was precious, and its availability became a matter of life and death. So, what did early humans do? They adapted. They learned to identify sources of water and created tools to gather and store it. But these tools weren't as simple as they might sound. They weren't just used to drink water. They were weapons in their own right, enabling humans to maintain their survival against both the elements and the dangers lurking in the wilderness. These tools were carefully crafted from stone, bone, and wood. They were efficient, designed not only to collect water but to ensure that it could be stored for times when it was scarce. Why did humans, unlike other animals, develop such tools? What gave them the foresight to realize that their survival depended on a stable, reliable source of water? And how did these tools evolve into the weapons we would recognize in later periods of human history? The savage landscape. Why water was a hidden weapon? Why was water so crucial, and what made early humans turn to weapons just to secure it? Imagine walking through a desolate, arid land, where every step is a gamble for survival. There's no fresh water flowing from the tap, no convenience of grocery stores stocked with bottled water. The elements are relentless. The sun beats down on your neck, and the once vibrant green forests are now just patches of barren earth, cracked and dry. For early Homo sapiens, the struggle for water was not only a matter of thirst, it was a matter of survival itself. In those days, water sources were few and far between. Rivers, lakes, and streams weren't always easy to find, and when they were, they often proved to be hazardous. For one, dangerous predators, lions, saber-toothed tigers, and giant hyenas, often frequented these water sources. Early humans weren't at the top of the food chain. They were prey as much as they were predators. Getting to water could mean risking your life. Moreover, early humans didn't have the luxury of modern storage techniques. There were no coolers or insulated bottles to keep water fresh. The water they gathered had to be protected from contamination, and the tools they used had to be more than simple containers. They had to be designed to handle the task of collecting and preserving water in a hostile environment, often under the constant threat of danger. The tools they created weren't just for gathering water, they were about survival. These simple weapons helped early humans maintain control over one of the most vital resources on Earth. By creating tools from stone, bone, and wood, they were able to access water from places where it was otherwise out of reach, where predators roamed freely and the environment was unforgiving. In essence, water became a hidden weapon, one that early humans learned to wield to their advantage. But the question arises, why did early humans focus so intensely on water when they had so many other immediate survival needs? Why did they dedicate their ingenuity to creating tools that could store and safeguard this resource? The answer lies in their understanding of the connection between water and survival itself. As the climate shifted, water sources became more unpredictable, and early humans knew that if they could secure this essential resource, they could unlock the potential for thriving, not just surviving. Yet, was it only about the practical need for water, or was there something deeper at play? What did this early innovation say about the first humans' ability to adapt and overcome the dangers of their world? The dawn of innovation. Crafting the first survival tool. How did Homo sapiens craft the first survival tool, and what drove them to innovate in such a primal way? By now, the necessity for survival had become clear to early humans. The challenges they faced weren't just physical, they were environmental, requiring them to think differently. Humans are unique in the animal kingdom because of their ability to innovate, to see beyond their immediate needs, and to create tools and solutions for problems they hadn't even yet encountered. The creation of the first weapon for survival wasn't just a matter of crafting something sharp. It was about developing a way to ensure survival in an unpredictable world. The first survival tool was born not out of warfare or hunting, but out of necessity. Early humans needed a way to access water and store it for future use. And so, they turned to their natural surroundings, utilizing whatever resources were available to them. Stone, wood, and bone became the raw materials for these tools. It wasn't just about creating something that could hold water, it was about crafting something that could help protect water from contamination, keeping it fresh for when it was most needed. What is fascinating about these early survival tools is the fact that they were not only functional, they were works of art. Early humans didn't just use crude, unshaped stones. They meticulously shaped and sharpened materials to suit their needs. The crafting process was a meticulous one, requiring patience and precision. This wasn't simply about gathering water, it was about understanding how to manage a crucial resource, something that was scarce and hard to find. But what drove early humans to take this monumental leap in innovation? Was it purely instinct, or was there something more? Could it be that these early humans had a deeper understanding of their environment and their place within it? Could they have realized that the key to survival was not just brute strength or hunting prowess, but a deep understanding of the tools they had at their disposal? The earliest tools weren't just weapons in the traditional sense. They were symbols of human innovation, proof that Homo sapiens could not only survive but also thrive. These tools allowed early humans to meet their basic needs, and in doing so, they gained control over their environment. They began to shape the world around them, instead of simply adapting to it. As we explore these early tools, we must ask ourselves, was this the true birth of human ingenuity, and how did it change the course of human evolution? The silent evolution. From basic tools to ingenious devices. How did these first survival tools evolve, and what role did they play in shaping the future of human survival? As early humans began to understand the importance of water, they also began to realize something even more profound. Tools weren't just for survival. They were extensions of their will to control nature. The first tools crafted by Homo sapiens were simple, rudimentary, but they were life-changing. From there, the slow march of evolution began to take place. Tools evolved from basic rock formations and bone implements to more intricate devices designed specifically to help gather and store water. This wasn't a sudden shift, but a gradual evolution. As our ancestors learned more about their environment, they adapted their tools to fit new needs. What was once a simple tool used for gathering water eventually transformed into more complex devices. Early humans began to experiment with materials, learning what worked and what didn't. They discovered that certain types of wood were stronger and could hold more weight, or that certain rocks were better for shaping and withstanding the elements. The change didn't stop there. As humans migrated and adapted to different environments, their tools adapted too. In the arid desert landscapes, for instance, they crafted devices that could trap rainwater, storing it for times when sources were dried up. In wetter regions, tools were designed to filter out impurities, allowing for the gathering of clean, drinkable water. These innovations weren't just born out of necessity, they were born out of the realization that water wasn't just a resource to be found, it was a resource that could be managed. But this shift from basic survival tools to specialized devices was more than just technical progress. It symbolized something more profound, the human ability to shape the environment. These early humans were no longer just trying to survive in the world, they were beginning to master it. They began to see nature not as an unyielding force but as something that could be harnessed, something that could be manipulated. Their tools gave them that power. The question arises, how did these early tools affect the social structure of early human tribes? Was there a direct link between access to these vital tools and the development of more complex societies? Tools as social power. The birth of human cooperation. Could these simple water tools have had a deeper impact on the development of human societies? Was there a hidden social power behind the earliest tools crafted by Homo sapiens? As early humans began to craft more advanced tools, they realized something crucial. Tools were not just for individual survival, they were collective assets. The ability to secure water was no longer just a personal necessity. It became a communal need. Tribes, families, and groups began to gather together around these vital resources. Early humans didn't just live in isolation. They survived by working together, and the tools they crafted were central to that cooperation. It's easy to imagine that survival in the early days was about fending off predators, finding food, and gathering water. But as these early humans grew more skilled in their tool-making, something else began to emerge: the concept of shared survival. These early tools, designed to gather and store water, became symbols of the cooperation required to survive in a harsh world. In some ways, these tools were the first currency, representing the means by which individuals could contribute to the greater good of the tribe. The tools weren't just individual possessions. They were shared, passed from one person to another, and safeguarded for the good of all. This meant that those who controlled the tools controlled the survival of the tribe. As these social structures developed, the importance of water tools became even more pronounced. Communities began to form around water sources, with larger tribes and social networks growing up around these hubs. The more efficient the tool, the better the chances of survival. People began to rely on one another, understanding that no one person could survive alone. It was the creation of a deeper sense of interconnectedness, of mutual dependence. That was, in many ways, the real birth of human society. But could this cooperation have started purely out of necessity, or did these tools create a more profound shift in human behavior? What role did water play in shaping the early human psyche, and how did these early survival tools sow the seeds of more complex societal structures? Could these simple devices have been the true catalysts for human cooperation? The first water warriors, tools as guardians of life. What role did early humans' tools play in their battle to secure water, and how did these primitive devices evolve into vital survival weapons? As human societies grew more complex, so too did their relationship with water. No longer was it simply a matter of finding a stream or lake and drinking from it. Water was now a precious commodity that needed to be guarded. Early Homo sapiens learned that in order to survive, they had to protect their water sources from both natural forces and the animals that posed a threat. The tools they had developed for gathering and storing water became the first weapons in their arsenal, not for fighting one another, but for ensuring the survival of their people. These early water-gathering tools, made from bone, wood, and stone, were modified over time. The weapons were no longer just about access to water. They became about maintaining that access in the face of danger. Early humans needed ways to defend their water caches from competitors, wild animals, and even the changing seasons. These tools evolved into primitive forms of defense. The early Homo sapiens had not only learned to gather and store water, but they had learned to secure it, making the resources they controlled even more valuable. The idea of water as a resource to be protected fundamentally changed the way early humans interacted with their environment. Water was no longer just an element to quench thirst, it was a lifeline that needed to be guarded fiercely. Early tools and weapons developed in parallel, as survival became more complex. The battle to secure water brought about new methods of cooperation, innovation, and even conflict. Could this competition for a simple resource be the origin of some of the earliest forms of human aggression? As the tools grew more sophisticated, so did the ways humans used them. What was once a humble water-gathering device turned into a multifaceted weapon of survival. But was this evolution driven by necessity alone, or did the rise of these tools also signify the birth of early human ingenuity in the face of adversity? From water to warfare. The link between survival tools and defense. Could the early tools designed to gather and protect water have been the first stepping stones toward organized warfare? Water wasn't just a resource, it was the key to survival. And early humans didn't just use tools to gather water. They began using them to defend their territory. As tribes grew larger and competition for resources became more intense, these simple tools began to take on new roles. The line between a tool for survival and a weapon for defense began to blur. The early water-gathering tools were often designed to be efficient and sturdy, but over time, these tools were adapted for combat. The same weapons that were used to gather and store water began to serve as defenses against rival tribes or predators. These tools were no longer just for accessing water, they became tools for safeguarding what was most important. Water, now seen as a rare and valuable resource, was worth defending. And as human communities grew, so did the need for protection. Early humans were learning to defend more than just themselves. They were learning to protect the lifeblood of their society. The evolution of these tools mirrored the evolution of early societies. What started as an individual survival tool transformed into a collective weapon that defended the social fabric of humanity. Tools once used to gather water were now being wielded to protect that which gave life itself. But what was the real driving force behind this evolution? Was it a natural progression of human development, or did these tools evolve because early humans realized they had something far more valuable to protect, something that could mean the difference between life and death? The changing climate. Tools as the ultimate survival adaptation. Did changing climates push Homo sapiens to develop even more specialized tools to secure water and protect it? The world was constantly changing around early humans. The climate fluctuated dramatically, pushing early Homo sapiens into new environments. Ice ages came and went, and with them came new challenges. In these shifting climates, water sources became even more critical. As the Earth cooled, vast glaciers spread across the continents, making fresh water even more precious. During the warmer periods, water sources became scarce, and droughts could stretch for years. In response to these changes, early humans adapted. Tools that had once been used for simple water collection were now adapted for a much more demanding role. The tools had to be more efficient, more durable, and capable of withstanding the elements. The first weapons were not just for protecting against predators, they were now part of a more intricate dance with nature. Humans began to realize that their survival didn't just depend on the water they could find, but on the tools they used to capture and preserve it. As the environment shifted, early humans learned to adapt in ways that we can only imagine. The simple tools of the past became incredibly sophisticated instruments, allowing them to store water for longer periods, filter it, and even use it as a weapon in times of scarcity. These tools were, in essence, the ultimate survival adaptation. Could it be that the changing climate was the real catalyst for human ingenuity, forcing Homo sapiens to innovate just to survive? The legacy of water tools. From prehistoric times to modern civilization. How did the tools created by early humans to secure water shape the development of civilization as we know it? The journey from basic survival tools to complex civilizations is a long one. But it all began with the simple idea that water was a resource to be protected. As early humans learned to secure water and defend it, they began to realize that control over such resources could give them power, not just for survival but for prosperity. These tools, initially used to gather water, laid the foundation for the development of early agricultural societies. With the ability to secure water, humans could settle in one place. No longer did they have to roam constantly in search of water. This led to the first permanent settlements, the rise of farming, and the beginnings of agriculture. The ability to store water, irrigate crops, and support large populations was the key to building the first cities. Water tools evolved into irrigation systems that fed entire civilizations, and these early innovations helped establish the cities, economies, and cultures that would eventually shape the modern world. The legacy of these early survival tools lives on in the systems that provide water to billions of people today. Modern water management systems, reservoirs, and irrigation techniques all trace their origins back to the primitive tools first used by early Homo sapiens. The simple act of securing water led to the creation of the first civilizations and paved the way for the technological advancements we now take for granted. But what happened to the original tools that started it all? Did they continue to evolve, or did they fade into history as more sophisticated tools were developed? How did these simple tools shape the way we live today, and what can we learn from them?